Good morning and happy Thursday, everybody. This is Don Chakowski with Fidelity National Title. Welcome to this week's installment of Market of the Moment. And, I was thinking earlier that today is actually April Fool's Day. And unfortunately, I didn't come up with any great April Fool's gags to play on Market of the Moment because, as I mentioned, I didn't think about it until this morning. So, but thank you guys all for joining us today. Really appreciate you. So we're going to do some quick introductions, and then we're going to jump into this week's special guest. So I'm going to start off with Ms. Sharon Terhune, our Vice President of Sales for Fidelity National Title. Good morning, Sharon.
Good morning, and thank you all for joining us. And Mike and Mindy and Amber, great to see you all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you for being on, Sharon. Good morning, Ms. Amber Kovarik of Guild Mortgage. And Amber, I see the pen going. Everything is like, this girl's still working. She's on Facebook Live right now, and she is working hard. And I know what you're working on.
Like, you got to get it down before it goes away. And then you're like, right, oh, man, what was that thought I had?
Well, probably working on lowering some interest rates as well, right? Right? Trying to push those numbers down. So, yes. Yeah. So thank you for being on, Amber. Good morning, Miss Mindy Jones, the owner of the Amy Jones Group at Keller Williams Integrity First. Good morning, Mindy.
Hey guys, good morning. I'm excited to talk about inventory, hear about interest rates, and Mike, I am super excited to hear your story today.
Yeah, and thank you, Mindy. And our special guest this week is Mr. Mike Conway, the owner of Conway Real Estate. Mike, thank you so much for joining us. Mike and I had a little chance to talk before we went live, and we were talking about some of the mindset things that we plan to address today, and how appropriate it is because we have had so many conversations about this. Sharon and I were at a dinner earlier this week. That was part of the conversation there. On Market of the Moment, we've talked about that as well. So Mike, thank you so much for making the time to join us today.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on. I'm looking forward to this, and I'm excited.
Excellent. Well, great. Well, Mike, let's start off. So I've known your name for a long time. This is actually our first time of meeting, and we're meeting virtually. But for those who don't know your story and how you came to create your own company, could you share that with us? Kind of start things off a little bit this morning.
Yeah, sure. So my story starts back I got licensed in 2005, which was
you were really good then.
Yeah, it was a great time to be licensed. I didn't really know a whole lot of what I was doing, but it seemed to be working. I sold a lot of houses. I made a lot of money in my first year. But I think pretty much anybody that got licensed around that time could say the same thing. You could sell a house to the person checking out at the grocery store if you just asked a question. And it was a good time. And, like a lot of people, 2006 rolled around and things started to shift and change. And then by 2007, my business had completely flipped upside down. And I wasn't prepared because I just didn't know how to stay with the times and shift with the market and those types of things. That wasn't something that was taught or even addressed. So unfortunately, I went through a rough time where I lost everything, lost my houses, lost my toys, my boats, my vehicles, had to actually move in. And my son was actually born right at that time too. So rather than taking him home to our nursery that we had, put together for him, we actually had to move him. We lived in a vacant house as squatters for 6 months, and until we could actually get into another place. And so it was kind of an interesting time. I wouldn't change any of it. I love, obviously it was rough then, but looking back at it now, it's a lot of what made me who I am. And definitely show that no matter what happens, my wife wasn't going to leave me if she was willing to put up with that. So that was a plus. But then at that time, I just realized that I was kind of at a crossroads of like, what do I do? Do I do I keep pursuing this, whatever you want to call it, a dream, or do I step up and go get a real job, so to speak? And like so many people were telling me that I needed to do. And, my wife just sat down and was like, listen, we've lost it all. There's not a whole lot more we can lose. Like, there's no reason to really give up on this. But if you're going to do it, you got to stop second guessing yourself and just get out there and go. And, that's pretty much what I did. I just told myself at that point I was going to become a student of the business and learn as much as I can. I wasn't even going to think about making money or income or any of that kind of stuff, and just learn and soak up as much knowledge as I possibly can. Honestly, that's, a pivotal point in my career, and where I headed was that I found a mentor. I joined a group that was very big in mindset, and you may know this individual. His name is Curtis Johnson.
Oh, yes. Curtis was just on with us last week.
So I was fortunate enough to run into Curtis and his team and Nick Trevelyan, and got to work side by side with those guys and learn how important mindset was, and the power of focusing on the right things and just not letting the negative energy in your space and that kind of stuff. And for the next couple of years, I just powered down, and I was the first person in, last person to leave, and just hustled and worked as hard as I could until I got to the point to where, it was time for me to kind of venture out and do my own thing. So at that point I did, and I started my own brokerage in 2009. Yes, final answer. So, and then we just, it started out as just my team and just wanting to, help people and do as much as I can. And then, organically agents started to join us. And by 2015, I think we were 13 or 14 agents, so nothing huge. But then I decided at that point that I had this huge passion for just helping agents, especially agents that I could relate to, that were struggling, contemplating leaving the business, or just, not really having the success that they were looking to have. So I decided to dissolve my team at that time, and then just build the brokerage and work more one-on-one with the agents and have them help the clients through that. And then, now we, over the past, 6-7 years since I made that decision, right now we're sitting at about 115 agents, and we have 3 offices. And we don't have recruiters or anything like that. So we still pretty much just grow organically with our agents, word of mouth and that kind of stuff. But it's been a wild ride, and I've seen a lot of shifts over the last 16 years in this market, some good, some bad. But one of the highlights of being in this business is that you really can't get stagnant. Like, things change and shift so much that it keeps us on our toes. And for me, that's part of what I love. Some days I'm like, you got to be kidding me. What worked yesterday isn't working today. That's pretty frustrating. But at the same time, it just keeps us moving forward. And in reference to the whole mindset portion of this, it's the biggest contributor that took me from, failing publicly to, having a lot of different failures throughout my 16-year career that have equaled to some level of success. But ultimately, people say you can't, failure is not an option and things like that. And I would actually disagree. I used to think that way. I used to think failure wasn't an option, but really I just failed enough times and I just didn't quit. I just kept going and going and going. And I'm nowhere near where I want to be, but every day is better than the day before.
Yeah, Mike, thank you so much for sharing, because I think that there's a lot of important messaging in your story, right? So, it's always great to get into a business when it's at its high point and have that success. But, the fact that when things turned and when they went south for you, that your choice was to become a student of the business, right? And I love that those are the words that you used. To become a student of the business and let's figure out how to be successful in this new world, right? And we are constantly having a new world in this business as well.
Yeah.
Hey, Mike. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
No. Finish your sentence and I'll ask you a question. Go ahead.
Everything is changing, and it's changing so frequently that we can't just learn something and think that that's going to provide us for the rest of our lives. We have, people are constantly, asking me things, and it's like, listen, the day that I think I know everything is the day I'll have to retire out of this business, because there's just, for one, I'll be wrong, but I just won't have the ability to take on anymore at that point.
Right. So Mike, I obviously know your brokerage really well, and your team there, and you. I think the most special thing that you have going there and what you've really built is the culture that your company has. You want to talk a little bit about what that looks like? It's like being part of a big giant family. I mean, it's phenomenal, really, and I think that's what I love the most about it, because from the moment I met you, I felt like, I was part of your family, and I can go on vacation with you and go hang out with you. So you want to talk a little bit about that?
For me, it's just been, it's kind of like what I said. You're kind of drawn to people that you can relate to, that are like you, and things like that. And we are. It sounds, you hear it so much, like, oh, we're like a family and things like that. But I really do believe that in our business, our brokerage, and our culture. I know everybody in our brokerage. There isn't an agent here that I don't know. I try to know as much as I can about them, their situation, their families, spouses, children, things like that, their past struggles, where they want to go and why they want to be there. But more importantly, we just like to have fun, and I think that contributes to our culture, a lot. We stick up for our agents, which obviously helps. We try not to look at every situation as like just a dollar question, but like, these are people that are having situations, and they need like real advice and things, not just like, well, here's the best answer for the risk involved with the situation or stuff like that. But we get together often. We have potlucks a lot, even through the quarantine, which I know some people will frown upon, but I'm a people person, and I was very much still involved with people as much as possible over this past year. We do an annual camping trip. Many of my agents I've met through camping or riding, because I'm an off-road enthusiast, and so that helps a lot too. Many of our agents that were not a part of it when they joined have purchased RVs and fifth wheels and campers and razors and Can-Ams and things like that. And, they go ride with us on the weekends, or they go out to Glamis with us. And so it's, my agents can call me at 11 o'clock at night, and they know that they'll get a hold of me. They can try to call me at 5 in the morning, but it won't happen. But I'll call them back.
Now, you don't have just any off-road vehicle. We do need to spend 1 minute talking about your off-road vehicle, because it's like sick. Didn't you get like awards for it or something? It's like that was my last one that I saw. Oh, you got a new one now. Okay.
Yeah, the one I had about a year ago was just, honestly, it was just stupid. I had over $100,000 wrapped up into that thing.
Wow.
But it was fun.
It was featured somewhere too, wasn't it? Like on a picture somewhere, I don't know.
Yeah, it was the Sand Sports Super Show in Orange County. It was on display over there because it had a supercharger on it. So yeah, I was out there for a little while, but that's our hobby. That's what we love to do. My whole family, my wife actually got me into it 17 years ago, real quick, before we couldn't afford to do it anymore. And then, as things changed, we were able to get back into the sport again. But yeah, my son is 14, and he lives and breathes that as well. My daughter was pretty much raised in the dunes or up north. I have a 14-year-old son and a 3-year-old daughter. She just turned 3 last month on the 19th. But my whole family, this is what we do. Even when the quarantine first started and everything got crazy, we were actually on a camping trip in the dunes for spring break. And everything just kind of went nuts. And we were like, cool, we're not going anywhere. And we stayed out there for 6 weeks.
He camped for 6 weeks.
Wow. Well, that's pretty awesome, Mike. And I think that's, I used to have a quad and I used to go and do a lot of that stuff. I don't know what happened. I don't do that anymore, but it was a lot of fun. Maybe the dirt, but but Mike, can you like, so I think that something is important when you shared the story of your journey is like and our goal today was to talk about mindset. And, I think that, you obviously had to adopt to different things, right? As the market got more difficult, as we turned into a foreclosure market, as we came out of that, and all of these different, there's been so many markets over the last 15 years. So how did you keep yourself with that mindset to go out and to take care of business and to grow through all that?
Yeah, so for me, I just kind of adapted this concept that the market was never going to dictate my success again. And I just said it enough times to where I truly started to believe it. And then, how I was able to come to the point of just saying it as an affirmation to then converting to an actual belief was really just seeing that in every market there's success. There's agents that succeed and there's agents that fail, whether it's good or bad. Right now I hear agents say, if you're failing, there's something wrong with you. But the reality of it is there's agents that are struggling right now that we don't necessarily see or talk about because the market's so crazy and there's so much going on around us. No different than how agents were failing back in 2008 when we couldn't figure out, how to shift and stay current with the market and what was happening at that time. But the reality was there was a lot of people that were, and that might mean, just being ready for anything really, right? Like if the market goes to REOs again, cool. Then there's people that need help with REOs. There's people that are going to need help with short sales. There's people that are going to need help with loan modifications. Like if you're willing to just adapt and learn it, and then you have those people that say, if short sales come back, I'm never going to be a part of that again. Well, that's a decision and a choice you made, and you definitely won't have any success because you made that decision. For me, I'm ready for whatever the market throws. If the market wants to keep going nuts and become a second California, we'll figure it out. If the market starts to flatline a little bit, that's cool too, because we're not afraid to market. If it goes in another direction and things start to shift downwards, which I personally don't think will happen, but if it did, okay, well then I'm here to help as many homeowners as I can with their situation and help them get through it. So I just think it comes down to that mindset of, the market's going to shift and change. And once I accepted that, I just know I'm going to do whatever it takes to help as many people as possible.
Yeah. And I think that we briefly mentioned earlier before we went live about self-fulfilling prophecies. And, when somebody has that mentality of, well, if we were to end up in a short sale market again, I'm not working that. I'm not, then life's going to be tough for them because, they're going to have to go get a job someplace else, because this business is going to continue to change. I was speaking with some folks earlier this week, and the conversation was about how the results, what we're dealing with right now, this inventory shortage, is really a result of the housing crisis from 13 years ago, and that there were some decisions made through that process that the builders were going to slow down on building, and they were going to really protect themselves, which makes sense, totally understandable why they would make those decisions. But here we are further down the road, 13 plus years down the road, and now we're looking at the consequences of that. So decisions that are being made now are still going to be having consequences for 15 years down the road from now as well. And, Mike, I love so much what you said about being adaptable. I think that in life in general, in business, in your personal life, in whatever walk you're walking, that being adaptable is probably one of the most important things that most important skill sets that we can have. So when it comes to that, Mike, when you're working with agents within your office and they, because all of us have our days, right? All of us have our moments where we're like, this just stinks, so how do you help them overcome, and how do you help them, kind of turn out of that?
Yeah, I get asked the question a lot. They're like, how are you always so positive? It seems like, every day is a great day for you or something like that. And the reality of it is we're all the same. Like, we all wake up in bad moods sometimes. We all have things that put us in bad moods. We have our triggers, right? Like, we get stuck in traffic on the way into the office or whatever, and it changes our mood, or, whatever the case is. I live like a mile and a half from the office, so that rarely happens. But, what I tell people is that it's this, like, I don't not have those experiences. I don't, like, it's not like I am immune to having bad days or whatever. The difference between me and maybe somebody else that seems like they're struggling a little bit more is I've just figured out how to get out of it quicker. Like, I figured out how to change my mindset back into a positive state much faster. And I could probably contribute that to the fact that I read a lot of Tony Robbins. I go to his events, and I, study up on that kind of stuff, because, he specifically talks about how quickly you can change your physical and mental state by things that you do. And it's almost as quick as just making a decision to change your state of where you are. So for me, I just tell people, the second you recognize you're in a bad mood or your situation's not great, you have to make a decision to change it right there. But if you recognize it, then the more it happens, the quicker you can fix it. And I think that that's been a big contributor of my mindset. Obviously, I do all the normal stuff that all of us probably do. I look at and read affirmations. I think positive thoughts. I, tell myself a lot of lies. For a lot of people that would be like, that dude lies to himself a lot. But, for me, that's okay, because I feel like if I lie to myself enough, then it's no longer a lie. And as long as I believe it, then it comes through. And that's when things start to, magic starts to happen and things start to become a reality.
I think these are key components of a leader. And I think that, as one of the benefits of this weekly broadcast, one, we get a boots on the ground view of what's happening in the real estate market. But also, I think there's some really incredible takeaways from the guests that we have on here in how to be a strong leader and how to impact change, no matter what you're leading. It could be your family, it could be your real estate business, it could be the owner of a brokerage. I mean, it can apply in so many different ways. But the idea, Mike, that knowing how to get out of it faster, that is a sign of a true leader, because that ability, that capability to do that, and you probably keep having to practice at it, right? I mean, it becomes more natural over time. It becomes more of a habit over time and more of who you are, but it's also an intentional practice that has such a ripple effect within an organization and the people around you. And it's so easy to attract people because of your light, people that want to be and do better and be around people like you. And I think they then have to realize that it's a practice, right? It's something that they have to continue to work on. And when you have a leader who shows the dedication to mindset, it's really a game changer for people, especially in this industry, who don't have a lot of those role models.
Yeah, I was just gonna, say that right now more than ever, it's important to do that, because I think the agents are looking up to leaders, or looking for leaders. And if you have somebody that's showing negativity towards the market or what's happening in the conditions, you're just going to send others into a downward spiral. And it's so important to have that positivity, because it makes such a huge impact. I can honestly tell you, I've never met a successful person in life that doesn't have a positive outlook on things, period. So if there's a common, if there's a common denominator in anything, it's the fact that you really got to have that positive outlook. And it is more important. And I think, education and knowledge and learning and growth and all those things are huge in all factors. But I mean, listen, I dropped out of high school. I didn't go to college. I'm not the smartest guy on the planet, but I truly, truly believe in the ability of persistence and having a positive mindset. And I think anybody can be successful on just those two things alone, because everything else can be learned.
Right.
Well, and you mentioned Curtis Johnson, right? And he was on last week. And one of the greatest takeaways from last week was he said, people who are good at what they want to do want to show off, want to show their skills, want to show and shine, right? And how good they are when they have the opportunity to do that. So if you're around real estate agents that are fearful or kind of running away from the market, or who aren't trying to engage, or who are scared, that's a little bit of a flag. They might need some help, so we should reach out to them. But from a consumer perspective, they should be gravitating towards people who are positive and who are engaged and who are rolling with the punches and who are trying to make our clients win no matter what the environment is. People who are energized, right, by this environment, because those are generally going to be the leaders.
So, that brings up such a good point, Mindy. How many people do you know, if you sit here and think about it, that are truly, truly successful, not just career, but with family and everything, but are complete naysayers? Probably not a lot, okay? Because it is a trickling effect across your life. I mean, it truly is. And I do think, negativity, I agree with Mike too. Negativity, it's a virus. It literally is, it's cancer. Like the second it starts going, it just keeps going and going. And, it's always those people that have everything going wrong in their life, and why me, woe is me, the victim. And it's generally those people. They do have things goes wrong because that's their mindset. That everything's going wrong, And if you turn it and say, this is positive, everything's positive here, it's amazing with the things that come into your life, and the positivity around you, and the people, that get to work with you, Mike, and be around you and feel that radiance of positivity and how much you've brought to them. It's amazing. That's what you want to be around.
And it's not to say those people don't have challenges, right? It's not
right.
to say that people who are positive don't have things that go sideways in their life, because they do, right? We all do. And so it's what you do about it. It's what your mentality is.
Your reaction.
Exactly. And that's where you get to start making choices, right? You don't get to choose whether somebody backs into your car in a parking lot, but you do get to choose how you react to that situation.
And I think the key is to get around people that act like you want to act. So if you're not there yet, right, if you get frustrated easily, or you can't turn your mindset around, or it takes you time, or you're not even sure how to deal with what's happening in the market today, but you know that you have a passion for helping people and you want to stay with it, then you need to get around people that are doing this at a high level, whose mindset, right, that they've practiced more than you. That's all it is, right? It's a level playing field. They've practiced it more than you. So get around people who've been practicing it for a while.
Yeah, and I think it's being positive, and most high performers are positive, but I also think that what they do without maybe realizing it is they ask themselves better questions, because our brains are constantly answering the questions that we ask ourselves. And a lot of people, if you listen to them, the questions they're asking are, why am I so bad at this? Why does this suck so bad? What else could I do right now? Like, they're negative questions, instead of asking, in a tough situation, how can I grow from this? Where can I learn? And I think we just automatically ask those kinds of questions that then fuel the positivity and the growth. And so if you want to be more of a positive thinker, I think the first place to start would be to start thinking about and paying attention to what questions you're asking yourself when you're going through the day.
I think one of my favorite, so in my nearly 7-year career at Fidelity, one of my favorite takeaways has been the phrase about failing forward, that you have to be willing to fail forward. And, I came into this business not knowing anything about anything. And I was like, every day I'm like, oh my gosh, it's today they find out. It's today the day Sharon finds out how little I know. And so
you're funny. I was impressed that I know Mike. You didn't. This is the first you met him, and I knew somebody that you didn't know. I mean, I could know everybody. I'm like, wow, this is fun.
Yeah. But the thing is that I had no choice but to adopt the mentality of like, look, I just need to take every situation and learn from it, and figure out how to solve problems. And that's what the key to my successes have been, is just being willing to, instead of just saying, oh my gosh, that person's ridiculous, oh my gosh, I can't believe they're asking for this, oh my gosh, whatever. It's been, how do I solve the problems? When I have a great conversation with Mindy and she's like, I'd like to be able to do this, and I'm like, okay, well, who do I know that can help me with this and get this problem solved for us? And I think that is, and I think when you have that attitude, it helps that mindset, right? It becomes easier to adopt a mindset of not a fearful one, one that's coming from abundance, and one that's coming from a good place. So, Mike, can you tell me, when you're talking with your agents, and right now it's hard, right? It's tough for especially agents that are working on the buy side. And so when one of your agents, especially one of your newer agents, comes to you and says, Mike, I've written 36 offers, and and nothing is getting accepted. Maybe I just don't have it for this business. Maybe I just don't understand this business. Maybe I don't, whatever. How do you help them get through that? What's that? Can you kind of map us through that a little bit of how you help them get their mind into that better place?
Yeah, and right now there's more of those conversations happening than usual, because people are getting easily frustrated, especially those that participate in some of these agent forums, and read a lot of the stuff that happens or is said in there and stuff. But I think it really comes down to, like, if I have an agent that comes to me and is like, I'm really not sure what to do. Every situation is a little bit different, but what it really comes down to is, what's your end goal? What's your end goal for your client? What is their end goal? What's your end goal? And what are you willing to do to make that happen? Because if you're starting to get frustrated to the point where you think maybe you're not going to be able to help these people into a house, then, I mean, maybe we need to get real with some things, and maybe they are better off with another agent, because it really doesn't come down to the fact that it's impossible. It comes down to who is going to be more persistent. And we are seeing like more of the FHA offers getting accepted right now than we have in the past, for various reasons. And it doesn't mean that just because your offer keeps getting beat out that it's not going to eventually happen. We have to write, and I try to reference things into like perspectives. And I'm like, listen, in a normal market, you work with a buyer for months, they have no urgency, and after 3 or 4 months of working with them in a very passive manner, they make some offers and they get into a house. And on the listing side of things, you list a house, you list it for 3, 4, 6 months in a normal market, and then you get an offer and it's under contract. And in a market where there's heavy short sales, you put a house on the market, it goes under contract quick, but then you have 3 or 4 months of negotiating with banks to get an acceptance and approval, so that you can get to the closing table. And then in today's market, it's a little bit different, because now you get a buyer, and that buyer is ready, willing, and able, but there's a little bit more effort because you're showing a lot more houses and you're writing a lot more contracts. But for me, I just let them know, like, you need to learn from every offer that you write and every rejection that you get. Like, I'll do as much research as I can. Like, we got beat out, but why did we get beat out? What could I have done differently? What was important to the seller that I might have missed? So I can learn on the next offer and figure out, and try to really gauge that perspective. And then the best thing is we try to really celebrate the wins, because that's got to carry them through to the next win. Like,
Yeah.
it's something, if you get your client under contract right now, like, don't just hop into the next one. Like, take some time to celebrate that. Like, that's a big deal. Your clients should be excited. You should be excited. Celebrate it, and then go do it again for your next client. And I think it's just comes back to when you know what you're doing and why you're doing it, and ultimately it comes down to the client. Like this client needs to move, wants to move for whatever reason, and you truly feel that you're the best person to get the job done, well then don't quit. Just get out there and get it done, and eventually it'll happen. And I haven't had an agent yet that has stuck with it that didn't get an accepted contract. Like sure, it might have taken 10, 12, 15, but the only people I know of that I've had conversations with that said I have a buyer that did not get a house is either the buyer quit on them or they quit on the buyer. Those are the only two options. And that is 100% mindset. You got to stay strong so you can be persistent in this market.
I love that, Mike. Mike, I can't thank you enough for what you've shared with us today and for the time that you've taken to be on with us. I know you're going to stick around while we're doing our updates, and I appreciate that as well, and we'll appreciate your input there. But I think that having a conversation like this is extremely valuable. I think that this is one of those areas where it's easy to look over, and that we need to spend some more time thinking about these things and the people around us and how to help pull them up as well. So thank you, appreciate you, and round of applause for you today. So thank you, Mike. Okay, so we are going to now pivot a little bit over to Amber, who I'm sure is going to help us all with our positive mindsets by lowering interest rates. And so, Amber, what do we got going on out there?
Hello, everyone. Interest rates are staying somewhat steady. They're still up from where they were, but extremely low. In a 30-year fixed, we're trending in like the low to mid 3 range, depending on the client. So not where they once were, but we're just continuing to remind them that historically we're still at all-time low interest rates, still an incredible time to take advantage of the market. The market is just weird right now. Like we had jobless claims come in today and it was just awful. And the stock market would normally, get crushed on that news, and it's up. And so it's just the market is not making sense right now. The rise in interest rates that we saw in such a short period of time doesn't really make sense. It was too quick. So time will tell on what happens with that. But it's just communicating, as always, with clients to let them know where it's at. And, we started sending out weekly videos to our clients that are out shopping, just educating them on like what's going on with interest rates and, what are we kind of hearing out in the market, so that as they're out there shopping, they're being informed if there's been changes. And otherwise, the big thing that we're kind of talking about right now is that second home and investment property change that we mentioned, where Fannie and Freddie recently said that they're only going to allow those two property types to be 7% of their total overall purchases with each lender, which is about half of what they were at the peak. And so every lender right now is scrambling to figure out, oh my gosh, how do I get our number below 7%? How do we find different sources to sell these loans to? And so in talking with some of my agents, I'm realizing that all the lenders are handling this differently. And so if you have a buyer that is a second home or investor right now, it's really wise for them to get connected with their lender to see how their company adapted to that change. Like at my company, we affected the rates on refinances. So as of right now, until they figure this all out, they're kind of wanting to postpone refinances on second home and investment homes because they want to use the 7% for purchases. But I was talking with a realtor who said their lender increase the interest rate substantially on second home and investment purchases. So just know that if you've got someone out there looking, that they should dig into that a little bit deeper before they go under contract on something. Otherwise, I think that's it.
Okay, well, and then product-wise, we are still where we've been. I mean, it looks like jumbos are back.
Yep.
So jumbos are back. We had the increase in conventional and FHA, but really with the way the prices have been increasing, that we're really looking forward to next year when we get another increase, hopefully, and maybe a little more substantial increase. But and I know getting any kind of down payment assistance, anything like that, offers accepted right now is pretty rough. But those products are available for those who are in need of that as well.
they're all available, and we're utilizing them now with a little bit of a different strategy, where someone that has down payment that maybe would have come in with a 3% or 5% down payment, we're looking at down payment assistance if they qualify for it, just so they can use those funds instead of towards down payment and being able to go over and above list price or appraised value and be more competitive in this market. So we're using it as a tool to help people try to win.
Excellent.
Which is, I think, something that folks need to be doing if they're not doing already, either within your brokerage, with your lender partners, with your title partners. You need to be having ongoing strategy sessions. Amber just came to our team this week, and the whole purpose of our getting together was really just to talk strategy and what other options are there for people? What challenges are agents seeing this week? Have they heard anything different? How can we address the hardest hit folks in this type of an environment? And then doing that regularly, not every 3 months, not every 6 months, not every 9 months, but weekly. And if you don't have a core group of people to do that with, this is a great place to start, right? This at least gives you a once a week check-in on what's happening in the market and what people are doing. But I definitely think this market is one that necessitates having partners who get together regularly to talk strategy for your clients.
Absolutely. And so, and I think that, that's probably one of the most important things. And it was so nice that, Sharon and I got to go to a dinner this week with a lot of folks over in Phoenix. So nice to see real faces again, and three-dimensional and the whole thing. But the networking that came from that event was just really great, and something that I think so many of us have missed. Doing this each week helps us a lot with putting some information out there. But if you're looking to grow your network, everybody on the screen right now can help you with that. Everybody on the screen right now is happy to help you be connected with the people that can help you grow and accomplish the things that you like in your business. On that note, Mindy, I'm going to see you this afternoon. What do we got going on this afternoon with the Amy Jones Group?
Yeah, so this is just another way that we try to continue those networking opportunities. We're hosting our quarterly business mixer with you guys, Fidelity. We do it every quarter in South Chandler at Parlay Kitchen and Cocktails, which I'm a big fan of, a local business we like to support. But it's from 4:30 to 6 o'clock today, and it's an opportunity for anyone who owns a local business to come out. You'll get a chance to introduce yourself. You'll have some drinks and some appetizers. There's some nice space that they've given us, but really it's a good way for us at the Amy Jones Group to find local businesses, not only to support, to refer to our clients, and then also just keep, again, our feet to the ground and hear what everybody's experience is like in this type of an environment.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to it. It's always a good time. So if you are watching this live, or if you're catching this before 4:30 on Thursday, reach out to Mindy or myself, and if you have any questions about participating. If you're catching this after that, or you're catching this in the
next time,
yeah, exactly. Reach out to us, and we'll let you know when we got the next one set up. So, okay, Mindy. So I know we've been tasking you a lot lately with trying to create more inventory, and now we're into the traditional busy season of the year. So how are we doing on our task for that more inventory?
Yeah, I mean, I like to overachieve in everything that I do. And I think this task you keep giving me is sort of putting me at an unfair perspective here when I join your weekly market of the moment. But yeah, inventory is going to continue to be a struggle. I think you and Mike talked a little bit about it at the beginning of the show today, and that this really isn't something that just happened. It's been happening. If you look over the last several years, we start each year with a little less than we had the year before, right? 2 years ago, we were about 19,000 listings. A year ago, we were about 12,000 listings. And then when we look today, we've got about 4,000 listings. So it has continued to decline in increments over the last few years, but it wasn't until our demand hit all-time highs in 2020 that it just demolished any hopes of being able to catch up. So it's certainly going to take some time. I think right now you've got a lot of reasons why the listings are even less than we expect them to be this time of year. I think if I had to call out a few of those, One is that rental rates are exorbitant, right? I mean, they've gone up about 15% year over year, higher in some areas. I have some clients of mine who say, oh, I love my tenants, so I'm just going to let them live another year and not raise their rental price. And I say, hey, you do you, but I'm just letting you know that they expect something. They're expecting some type of an increase, right? I mean, if they go out and go to get another rental right now, they're talking at least $200 probably more than you're charging them today. So cut that in half, do a good deed, and at least, build up your bank account. But I think a lot of the reason why you're not seeing listings come to market is if people can, they're keeping them as rentals. So I think that's one piece of what we're seeing. I also think that we're seeing a lot of people who have elected not to play in this market. They kind of maybe dip their toe in. They have the funds from the house that they have to sell, so they would be a competitive player in this market. But as Amber talked about when we had a strategy session earlier, they maybe just don't want it as bad as they thought, as bad as it would take to really stay tenacious, right? And then I think the third piece of why this inventory is so low is us a little bit. And, I say that because as a real estate agent, my job is to go out and to let people know what the market of the moment looks like. And like Mike said, this is something that I'm going to be doing when the market is up, when the market is down, and the market is sideways. We're one of the few professions that we talk about our career as if we're only going to do it when it's good, and when it's not good, now what do we do, right? Other people are committed to their career. And so for me and for Mike and for the people on the screen, this is what we do, right? And so I think what's happening is you've got a lot of agent fatigue right now. You have a lot of people who didn't have their skills sharpened coming into this market. They have a lot to learn. You've got a lot of people that thought it didn't matter what brokerage they're at or what partners they worked with, because what does it really matter? You pay a fee, and a fee is a fee, and is a fee. And you've got a lot of agents that are operating on an island. And because of that, you're not getting enough people going out proactively to consult with clients and talk with them about how they could take advantage of the market. And this just isn't the type of market where someone just kind of puts their toe in the market to feel it out, right? You think about any other fast-paced environment, it would be like me, who knows nothing about gambling or cards or, I don't know, poker, all these things. I know nothing. It would be like me walking into a high stakes room, right? Everyone's all dressed up in the glass. I mean, like the whole thing. And me just walking and being like, hey guys, I just wanted to kind of see what was going on, right? I mean, like that's not a thing, right? So I would never be able to get there if someone didn't guide me along the way. And that's how I feel about the current market. It's not a market where you just kind of like, hey, I was just calling to see if maybe you wanted to list my house and wanted to talk about it. Like, that's not what's happening. So if we're not going out there and having those conversations, I think we have a piece of control over what's happening in this market. So I think all of those things combined, it's going to be a slow go having new inventory come to the market. We have less in this first quarter than we expected even. So if we look like at the number of new listings, last year in March, we had about 10,000, almost 11,000 new listings, which was less than we had in 2019. So 2019, we did have 11,000 listings. March of this year, we only had 9,000. So what you're feeling is real, right? The shortage was there, and it's being compounded by less new coming to the market. The opportunity for people has not changed. So, I made a post on Facebook this morning. Most people cannot delineate whether a market is hot because there's a lot of demand or whether a market is hot because there's not enough supply. Most people don't know how to feel the difference, or even that we look at those two things as two separate factors, right? And I think the same is true when it comes to these new listings coming to the market. Most people don't know if that's because a lot of them are being eaten up quickly or just not many are coming to the market. And in this case, it's certainly the fact that the inventory is low and being compounded by the fact that we're not adding a whole lot to it.
Mindy, it's funny. So we were together on Friday and with Amber as well, and we were doing our spring fling client appreciation event, which went really well. And everybody that was there, so for those guys who weren't aware, we had 5 different teams and 2 individual agents that were participating in this event, and it was a kind of like a reverse lead generation, right? So people were calling in, and everybody that was there walked away with at least 1 listing appointment. And but there was one specific conversation that stuck out in my mind that somebody called one of the participants and said, "Oh, I'm so happy to see you're taking calls today." Because I was thinking about listing our house, and we're thinking about, and I was like, oh my gosh, how powerful is that, right? Because people see us as being busy and all this, so we want to make sure that we're communicating to our databases and to our clients and friends and family out there that we always have time for them, right? That we always have time to have those real estate conversations with them. And if it's not right this moment, it'll be the next one or the one after that. But we'll get it figured out to do that, because I think that so many people are feeling a little trapped in like well, if I want to do something, but what happens? And they see all these stories about the shortage of homes, and so it's important that we come to them with solutions.
I think there's a lot of paralysis analysis right now. Right. A lot. I mean, sometimes when I sit down and talk with clients, I feel like we're just going in a circle around and around and around and around until I'm like, wait, let's back up a second and let's chunk this into pieces and have this conversation in pieces. Because I think what's happening is they're inundated with news reports, which I was looking at one before I came on this morning, just to kind of get a feel of what people are feeling. And one says, buying in a pandemic is a terrible idea because most people have buyer's remorse as soon as it happens. And then in the same article, it says homes are going to be harder to come by. And it's like, so where's the remorse part? If we know that it's going to get harder to come by, yes, you may have emotions, right? You may say, oh my God, what did I just do? I paid much more than I was anticipating. That's the high stakes of a market. That's the high emotional context of what's happening within the market. But within one article, to use such a loaded term like buyer's remorse, and then in the same article say, but it's going to get harder to buy a house, so you should be patting yourself on the back that you got one, right? You have all of these confusing messages that are going out to clients right now. And I think that, on top of them trying to time the market, on top of them throwing around really big numbers without ever attaching it to an actual out. I can make 300 today. I can make 350 tomorrow. I can make 4. I'm sorry. Like, is this the kind of money that you're typically talking about, like in a passive context in a sentence, right? I mean, there's just so much that's swirling around in our consumers' minds right now that if we're not taking the time to slow down and have these conversations with them, I think you will have this continued paralysis.
Well, and I think, Mindy, you've talked about so many times in the past about the importance of realizing the money, right? That having, understanding what that means, what these dollar amounts mean, and how this can be truly life-changing for folks. So whether it be upsizing or downsizing or making a lateral home move, that there is so much, equity built into so many homes right now that really can change people's lives. It can affect the way that they're able to make their next decisions and their next decisions from there. And that is an important part of that consult with a potential seller about realizing that. Is there a chance that they're going to have to go through some discomfort on the way? Is there a chance that they're going to have to go through some challenges with trying to find that next house or whatever that's going to look like for them? It's better than a chance. It's a probability. But for being able to make $20, $30, $50, $100,000, and bank that cash and put that to work elsewhere in your life, is it worth it? And I think those are the kind of things.
And it's their risk reward analysis. It's not ours, right? So I had a client, that we sold yesterday. We just closed yesterday. He netted $73,000 more than he would have had he taken the Zillow offers offer that he asked for prior to meeting me. He was ready to go under contract with Zillow offers. He lives out of state. It was a rental for him. He had gone to Zillow offers. He went through the whole process. He had his number. A past client of mine who I beat into their head that they have so many options right now. So just choose wisely, and all options are fine, but choose educatedly. Told them maybe you should talk to Mindy. So we ended up, that's after some renovations to go market ready. That's after the staging costs to prep the house. They netted $73,000 more. And the biggest part of our conversation was, what is your risk reward analysis? You are not in the home. It is a rental. You can play. You are who should be playing in this market, because you don't have these challenges that we have to worry about with families and timelines and in and out and all of these other things where they have to decide, can they make $73,000 more? Or is this other option better for them because there's too much going on for them right now? So it's so situation specific. And so the truth of the matter is we're going to continue to watch these numbers very closely. We'll continue to watch supply and demand. Demand has started to come down very lightly, which no one in the general marketplace will see or feel. But we watch those things to know, and that's really just people electing to pull out of the market. Your opportunity out there is unchanged. Your options are endless, right? You've got to speak with someone who will give you guidance on what you can and can't do, and then you make the risk reward analysis for yourself. And in the meantime, we'll watch and we'll look for slight changes to the market. And if you feel like you want to get into the market, now is always the best time after 5 years ago.
Right. Well, thank you guys. And thank you all for being part of this. I wanted to tease a couple of things that we've got coming up. And Mindy's going to be really excited about next week, because I think we might have some inventory solutions coming up next week. So next week we are hopeful that we're going to be hosting a way to have some great communication with other agents about markets that haven't hit or properties that haven't hit the market yet. So we're excited about that, and so next Thursday we've got them booked. We just have to make sure a couple things line up to make sure that works out. The following week we've got Mr. Kevin Kaufman of the 4610 group. They run one of the largest Facebook real estate Facebook groups in the country. So we're excited that we're gonna have them on. And then the following week, we're gonna be talking about commercial real estate, and we're gonna be talking about the impacts of all of this in the commercial world. So we're going to be getting a lot of great takes in the month of April. And so we appreciate everybody who's joined us. Look forward to seeing you business owners today at Parlay Kitchen with the Amy Jones group and the business mixer over there, 4:30 to 6. Is that correct, Mindy? Excellent. All right, cool. Everybody, thank you guys all so much for being a part of this today. And we look forward to seeing you next week. Mike, special thanks to you for being our guest this week and all the great information you've shared.
Thank you. I really appreciate you having me on. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Mike. That's awesome.
Thank
Mindy,
you.
always great. Amber. April Fools. Go fool somebody
Go
today.
trick somebody.
And first day of second quarter. First day of second quarter. Oh my goodness, right? Yeah. If you have a business plan, you better hurry up. You're already a quarter behind.
All right. Thank you, everybody. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.